How do you install a greenhouse? Today I'm with Caleb and Josh from Farmers Friends, and we're going to install a greenhouse. Hey Caleb, what kind of greenhouse are we installing?
So today we're going to be installing a 50-foot by 16 greenhouse. This is the Caterpillar Tunnel Pro Max. It has the purlin, it has the wind bracing, and a Dutch door end wall, so it's the top notch.
Hey Josh, you ready to go?
Yeah.
Let's go. So what's the first step?
First step is make sure you have a level ground. Teddy was kind enough to square off the space that we're going to be using. And I'm going to go around measuring, because we're going to have 5-foot spacing between each of the ground posts, and that'll be our first step.
Awesome, man. Let's go.
We're just make sure that it's 50, and then we got to take the diagonal as well.
Okay.
So, like I calculated it, it's 52.5
Okay.
diagonal, and that just make sure it's squared. Could you bring it more that way?
Yeah.
5 is right there. Yeah, 0.5. Yeah.
So to figure out the diagonal, if it's square, is you're going to measure 50 feet, because it's a 50-foot tunnel, and then 16 feet is the width, plus the diagonal. So it's 50 feet here, 16 feet over, and then you just lay all those out, and then you know exactly where your third ground post is going to go.
It up like that? Would it be okay?
Yeah, so you'll have to cut it off because of the way the bow bends, but if you are hitting rock, you can just cut these off to the height that they need, as long as they're in far enough that it's solid, which this is, but we'll see if we can get it a little further.
Okay, awesome.
So on this tunnel, we had some issues with the ground being super hard, which isn't necessarily a really bad thing, because once the posts are in, they're not coming out. But some of these we weren't able to get them in all the way, and also when it's super hard, it's hard to get them in straight because they're hitting rocks and bending back and forth. So I'm just taking this piece of metal and we're just sliding it over these, because some of them are just not straight, and just straightening out a few of them because some of them are really whacked out. So we want them to be straight. And since we didn't get them all the way into the ground because the ground's so hard, we're gonna go ahead and cut them off at the height that we need, because the bow bends, and so it can't be too tall, otherwise the bow won't sit all the way down on the ground.
What's the height? 12 inches?
It is, yeah, about 12 inches.
Got it.
Maybe a little higher is fine. Yep.
Awesome.
All right, so on each of these rebar ground posts, we're gonna be putting this base plate, which will attach the rope which goes over the tunnel to hold the plastic down, and then you can adjust it up and down. So they have this little hook thing that you'll just insert here and then stick it in through the small hole halfway, and then you'll be setting one of these on each of the ground posts facing out.
It's squared, the rebar's in the ground, and now Josh and Caleb are going to set the ground plates in place.
Sure.
Caleb, you got the rebar in the ground, you got the ground plates, you just set those over the rebar. What's next?
So we're going to be assembling the bows, and then we're going to be installing those bows on the tunnel where we're putting them up.
Awesome, man. Let's go. Caleb, I noticed that these pieces are different, like the bows look different. Can you explain the differences?
Yeah, so on this tunnel, every other bow has a cross bracing at the peak, which you can see here. So these ones have a cross bracing, and these ones do not. So since every other one has a cross bracing, we have those two different types. But there's also one other thing. There's a hook on 3 of the bows to hold up the side curtains. So we just installed those. So we have 3 bows that have those hooks, and then just the regular non-bracing, and then a couple with the bracing.
Awesome.
All right, so we're going to be assembling the bows. And so we have the peak piece, this is the Gothic, so it's got the point, and then we have the 2 side pieces. And this one has a cross bracing on the peak on every other bow. So we're just gonna be marking these. It's 15 inches up from the base of the peak to where the cross brace band goes. And so we're gonna be marking those at 15 inches and then attaching the cross brace and then doing the 2 side pieces. And then there's also an additional, since this is the Pro version, it has an additional 12-inch lift at the bottom, so that it gives you higher sidewalls on the edges.
What are we doing, Josh?
We are gonna set up these purlings, assemble them together. They go on the top of the caterpillar tunnel, and it holds all the bows together. We'll just line them up here, and we don't have the bows up yet, but as soon as the bows go up, this goes on the top of them.
Let's go!
So we're just gonna join them together, and if it seems like it's not joining together, you can tap the other end with a hammer, and it should fit in just fine. So we want to screw it in. This is just, we put another one in, but this is just to hold it together, and you want it on the same side.
Got it.
All right, because this, the top end, we're planning to put the top end plastic, and you don't want that screw to
Rip through the plastic.
when we
Got it.
pull it on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just
Josh, is that sweat on your face or is that rain?
rain. A mixture of both.
A mixture of both.
Yeah, sweat rain. Just like that.
Little plastic piece on the end that keeps it from being
Covered.
sharp.
Yeah.
Got it.
Just keeps it covered. Looks nice.
Plastic for carrying.
It's a little pain to get in, but
Is it?
just tapping away. Yep. Just
Beautiful.
makes it look all uniform. Nice.
All right, now that we got all the bows up, you can see the last bow does not have the cross bracing, but every other bow through the tunnel has the cross bracing. So you just make sure the last one on each end and then every other all the way down the tunnel.
After seeing it go up, I'm getting pretty excited now in this part of the installation. So what are we doing now, guys?
All right, so we have the center purlin already out here. It's screwed together. So we're gonna mark it every 5 feet because the bow spacing is 5 foot. And then when we put it up, we'll just line it up with those marks. And then we know that the bows are spaced the correct distance apart at the top as well as at the bottom.
Awesome. Every 5 foot there's a mark and that lines up with the bows. So we're not sticking out too far on one end. Just right.
All right, so since we're installing this at the peak of the tunnel, we have to push it all the way past the tunnel, and then we'll be sliding it in above the crossbars on the peak. Now that we have the bows up and the purlins up here and marked every 5 feet, we're gonna go ahead and line these marks up at the peak of the bow. And so we'll move the bow whichever way it has to go so that it is at the right mark. And then we're just gonna hold it here and put these through. And one thing we also wanna do is make sure that the screws are facing down on the purlin pipe where they're connected together so that when you put the plastic over, it's not ripping on that. All right, so on the end bow, instead of using the purlin strap ties that are there, we switched to using one of these so that doesn't go over the end. And then I'll just install this and screw it in so the end of the purlin is attached to the bow.
Bows are up, purlin's connected. What's next, Caleb?
All right, so the first step is we're gonna be installing this wind bracing along the edges. So it starts on the third bow in, and so you go from third bow to second bow. That's your first piece, and then from second to first bow. So this is a 5 foot spacing tunnel. So we have 6 foot wind bracing so that it will go in at an angle, and we'll just attach it right there and right here. And that'll just sturdy up the whole structure.
I wanted the greenhouse to be a little bit taller because I'm a tall guy, so I went with the extensions. So you see this extra piece right here? This is 16 inches. So this is going to give my greenhouse more height inside. It's sturdy. So right here we have a few different packages, and these packages contain the parts and the pieces to put together the door that's going to be on the end of the greenhouse. Caleb, can you explain what this is going to make?
Yeah, so this is the Dutch door end wall kit. So those two boxes there are two half doors, and then we have the framing for the door frame. So it's going to go up on each side, have the door frame, and then you'll have a door that you can either open the whole thing or just the top half to get some ventilation without letting critters in and stuff.
Yeah, so this is a really nice door that you can order at Farmer's Friends, and you can get this so that you have a good entrance way in and out of your greenhouse.
Alright, so when we're installing the Dutch door end wall, we need to make sure that the door posts are directly in line with the bow. So I just attach this right here, and then I'll just run it over to the other side and attach it so that it's pulled tight and we can know where to put the posts for the uprights of the door. Alright, so for centering your door, we just did a string line in between, then we measured and got the exact measurement, which should be 8 feet because it's a 16-foot tunnel, and it was, so we're good on that. And then from the center mark, so we measured right there, and then we're going 24 inches and 7/8, so 24 and 7/8 over on each side, and that's where you're going to pound in the ground posts.
So I've never seen this type of bit before. This is really cool. Caleb, explain, what is this?
Yeah, so this is a bit that actually Farmer's Friend manufactures and sells for pounding ground posts. So for the Haven tunnels, you can buy this, and then for these kits, it's pretty nice to use. You can just use the hammer, but it's a whole lot easier with this.
That's awesome. Click the link right here, or check out the link in the description. Get one of these bits. So the ground's tough. We can't get this post all the way in the ground, so what are we gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, we're just pounding on it. This thing's bending out. So what we're gonna have to do, because we need this wedged end, which is narrower, to fit inside of here, but we need it to also be lower. So what we're gonna do is cut this off at the height we want it to be at, and then we can take this and cut this section out and insert it into there and drill it in. So you'll see how that works in a second here.
Awesome.
And then this side's pretty well smashed out, so we're just gonna have to cut that off right at the tip.
So Caleb and Josh have attached one side of the door frame here to one side of the bow. So they're going to do the exact same thing on the other side right after they level this up. So it's pretty sturdy, and it looks like it's really good material. If you do purchase a greenhouse and you do want the Dutch door, every piece is labeled so you can see C and C, and then there'll be a piece up here that says D that goes into where this piece says D. So everything's labeled, super easy and simple for you to install.
All right, so when you're doing any of this end wall framing, one thing you always want to pay attention to is which way you put the bolt in. So you always want to put the flush side of the carriage bolt on the outside, and then the nut and the rough side on the inside. Yeah, you want to go ahead and mark next? just want to mark that right at the curve.
Caleb, what are we looking at? What are we doing next?
All right, so we got the doors framed out. We got these 2 uprights in, got
Okay.
the bottom bar across. And so we're gonna go ahead and be setting these doors in place. We got the first one here.
Awesome.
Sometimes they can be a little bit tight, but it's
Setting the door in place, and then next is the door that goes on top.
correct, yeah. And you just use these little pins. This will go through here, and then they have another pin at the top.
Awesome.
And then once we get those 2 in, then we can adjust this up and down to the right height to know exactly where it will be, so it's even gap along the top.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Before we move forward, Jonathan, the CEO and founder of Farmers Friends, is here. I want to introduce you, so let's go over to him. Let's see what he's doing. Jonathan, I'm here with Jonathan, founder and CEO of Farmers Friends. Jonathan, tell me first, how did you get started? And second, what is Farmers Friends all about?
So I got started because I grew up farming. My parents started farming when I was like 5 or 6 years old, and so that was pretty much all I ever knew. And around 18, 19, I started Farmers Friend when I was 19, but previous to that I had been kind of inventing some different tools and stuff that would make farm processes easier. And so 2019 started selling the Quick Cut Greens Harvester, which is a mechanized device for harvesting salad greens, baby greens, and that went really well. And then 2016 we started selling these high tunnels, and essentially the goal of Farmers Friend is just to make small scale farming more efficient and more profitable. So it's all about, and through making it more profitable, our goal is to have high quality product at a reasonable price. And
That's
so
awesome.
the high tunnels have been very successful for us. At this point, it makes up about 60% of our business.
Wow.
And so yeah, that's the goal, is just making high quality veg more accessible to everybody. And so as especially the last few years, we've really seen a lot of our customer base coming from more like serious backyard gardeners and homesteaders and stuff like that. So it's not so much just commercial growers now that are trying to make a living off of it. It's just a lot of people that are interested in being more self-sufficient and growing their own produce.
Yeah, and that's a larger group and audience or market than it is commercial farmers.
Yeah, I think so, for sure. And it was always my vision that we would shift more that direction versus more towards the large commercial, because really in the large commercial sector there's already so much innovation and tech being directed that way. But the small scale side of things has kind of been left behind in like the 19th century shovels and hoes and rakes and stuff like that, right? We're trying to bring more innovation to the small scale sector.
It's already hard to be profitable as a farmer, especially as a small farmer. Labor will eat up a lot of your
100%.
cost. Yeah, and then if you have too much labor cost, then you have no revenue.
Yeah.
So you're just making quality products that can help people be more.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so with things like high tunnels, your whole operation can be more efficient if you're not dependent on the weather to dictate when you can do what, and the success of your crops also can be dramatically changed by weather.
That's awesome, man. It's Jonathan, founder of Farmers Friends. If you guys need anything for your farm, check out Farmers Friends. Link right here or link in the description, and they've got you covered. Can I help?
Sure.
What are we doing?
So we are putting on this spring wire channel along the end bow. So we're going to be attaching it here, and then you'll just be bending it over, and I'll be putting the screws in.
Cool.
So the bottom few screws can be a little bit of a pain, because remember, we're sitting this on top of a rebar pipe. So we got to get this in right beside like the rebar. So it can be a little difficult sometime. And we'll just bump.
So do we offset it a little or no?
No, we'll just kind of go in at an angle, and that should be able to work fine.
Got it.
That went in.
Beautiful.
We'll put the second one right here at the joint so that we get 2 screws connecting these together.
So now we just bend it.
Yep. Get up
one
on
here.
the ladder and.
I can get it.
Okay.
I can
go
do it.
ahead. You got it.
Yeah, give me a screw.
Cool guy.
Let me show you something. Let me show you something. Watch look what I can do. Just very top or do another one right here?
No, go to the very top.
Very top,
Yeah.
okay. Told you I couldn't do it.
Let me show you what I can do.
Imagine if you had a ladder. You could put a little elbow grease behind it.
Tried to show him up, man. Can't do it. Why are we putting this on one of the bows?
Yeah, so this spring wire channel is on the very last bow. And so when we pull the plastic tight, we have to have a way to connect it to the bow. So we're
Okay.
putting this on, it's got a little channel in here, and then you have this spring wire, which once you pull the plastic tight, you'll be able to stick this in, and then as it goes in, it'll be pinching it in like that.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So we also have this spring wire channel that we're gonna be putting around the door frame. So when we cover this with plastic, we can attach the plastic in along here and then cut out for the door, and then it'll hold it secure all the way around the bottom and up around the door frame and on the bow. Alright, so now we're going to be putting on the hardware for the door. So we have the latch and the handle, and then a tie-back strap that attaches it to keep the door open. So this one, we'll first start out with the latch here. So we're going to install this on the bottom half of the door, so on the bottom panel, and then stick it on about right there, so all the way to the edge, so that lines up like that. And then we'll just screw that on. This is the latch that goes on here. Push that in, so that's at the right spot there. And attach Now you have a functioning latch for opening your door. But it's kind of hard to open without a handle. So we're going to throw this handle on here. And we're going to be attaching this one to the top panel of the door. Now you have a handle and latch. We're going to be drilling a hole through here so that we can push this cable through, and then you can open it from the inside. And go ahead and do that now. It's about 1.5 inches up from there, roughly. And then this will just feed through. Just grab it with some pliers from the inside. And then you can unlatch it from the inside. So when the door is open, you want something to keep it from flapping around and open. So we have this little cleat here. This will attach right here, and then this will be attached in a later step onto the bow, and then that will just hook onto here. So it's just a little button that can hook onto there. And so I'll just attach that, and then we'll show you this later.
We got the wind bracing, we got the Dutch door, and the end wall complete. What's next, Josh?
Now we have to finish the end wall. We're gonna cut a 16 by 10 foot piece of plastic so we can put it on the end wall before we get the plastic over the top.
Awesome, let's do it.
So now that we have the plastic on the end wall, we just squared it up, make sure it's good, and then we're gonna start. Josh was pulling from that side across from me, and I'm pulling on this side. And so we're just gonna start this. So you'll just insert that in, and then you just wiggle this back and forth while pulling tension and trying to keep the wrinkles out. And then that just goes up and pinches that plastic in place.
Am I good? You still need me to pull.
So as I was talking about earlier, this little cleat here and this tie back strap will go on here, and then we can open the door here, and then we're just going to use this short piece of spring wire channel to attach this onto here, so that we'll stick that in there and put that right there, and then this will stay on there, and then you can open up the door and latch it on just like that. So that'll keep it from flapping around. And you can also just keep the bottom one open and shut the top one open, shut the bottom, just like that.
When you order the Dutch door, you get a thicker, sturdier plastic that is used for that end for the Dutch door. So we're gonna take this plastic that's sturdier and we're putting it on the other end. Caleb, can you tell me why?
Yes, we just decided, since the other end, it has the framing around the door, it has the bottom, it's just a sturdier framed out end wall. And so we decided to take the plastic from the top and put that on that end. And
Okay.
we're using this woven heavy duty plastic on the far end just to block it off. There would be no framing or anything, but this is heavy duty and it'll hold up a whole lot better when there's
Deal.
nothing else.
Thank you. Let's go. We're at the last steps of the installation process. We've got plastic on both ends. Tell me what we're doing next.
All right, so next we're putting the plastic on the top. And so there's two different ways you can kind of do this. One way is just rolling the plastic out beside the greenhouse and then pulling it over. Or what we're gonna do is roll it down the peak of the greenhouse and then unfold it. So why we're doing that is because it's been rainy, the bows are wet, it's harder to pull the plastic over, so it's gonna be easier to unfold it, and the ground's just kind of dirty and stuff, and the plastic will get all messy. So this is just it's a nicer way to do it, but it is a little bit harder because the plastic is very heavy.
Awesome. So you're keeping my plastic from getting dirty, keeping my greenhouse nice and clean, and we're able to do this easier because, of course, the conditions.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude, taking care of me the whole way.
All
Let's
right.
go.
So now that we've got the plastic rolled all the way down, we're gonna start at the peak in the center of the plastic by putting the spring wire in, and then we're gonna be unfolding it as we go and just putting the spring wire in along the channel as it goes, and we unfold it. All right, so the next step is putting the ropes over the top of the tunnel. So what we're doing right now is we're actually just making a rope that is approximately 60 feet long, because we're gonna fold it in half and tie a knot in the center, and then we're gonna feed the rope through that so that we can use this rope to pull the other rope back and forth over the tunnel. It's kind of complicated, but I think it'll make sense in a second. So we have the rope hooked up to the far end, and then we came down here, threw a loop on here, and then we're gonna put this carrier rope, we're gonna put the rope that's going over the tunnel through the carrier rope. And I'm gonna put this right on these, so these things, you put it in and twist it, and it hooks just like that. I don't know if you can see that there. So everyone's gonna be like that. So then Joshua's gonna go over to the other side, and I'll throw him over half this rope,
Okay.
and then he'll pull it over. Is that gonna be far enough? Okay, pull that. Okay, so Joshua pulled it over, and then we're gonna hook this on right past where the carrier rope is, and then I can pull my end and then pull it right back over. And so we're gonna put this in here and twist it. Actually, let me put it in the other way so it's gonna twist it right. There we are. And I'll pull my side back over. So then we're just gonna do the same thing on this side. Just gonna tie a loop right here. And then feed that through the carrier rope again. Hook it onto the last bow here. Joshua, you can go ahead and pull it. And so then we're just doing the opposite on this side. So he's doing it on the second bow. I'll be doing it on the third, fifth, just opposite all the way down.
He gave me a job. You see, I told you, eventually, Taddy always helps. In some way, shape, form, or fashion. You think you can do it by yourself. You think you're a one-man island. No man's an island. Not without Taddy.
All right, so now that we've got the ropes over the tunnel, we're gonna pull them all tight. So starting with the original one, we're starting bow 1, it's over. Josh is pulling it tight. Pulling it tight, Joshua?
Yep.
And then I'm gonna come over here to bow 3 and pull this one tight. And then he's gonna go to bow 5. Next one. Or bow 4 on his side, I guess. I'll jump over to bow 5. Pull these as tight as we can. And every other one all the way down. All right.
Good.
And then last one here. You want to hold this, Taddy, and then I will tie a loop at the right spot here. We got this one here. We're just going to tie another loop right about here. And then pull that tight and hook it in. There we are.
This is like pulling up the skirt, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So, what are these for?
They're just to hold the sides up. I mean, the ropes kind of hold it tight, but we'll just spin it around.
So you can pull up the sides to get some more air in here.
Yeah, and then just spin this around, put it at the right height.
Is that the only thing that these are beneficial for, as far as when you pull it up?
Yeah, that's just what these little things are for.
Got it. Okay.
Yep, so that's
Legit, man.
it's completed.
The install is finished. I'm happy. Josh, thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb, thank you, sir.
For sure.
So the install, it took about 4 hours. And typically, does it take 4 hours? How long does it take for somebody who's just ordered their greenhouse from Farmers Friends and has never done this before? How long is it going to take?
Yeah, so if you've never done it, it could, if you have pretty handy skills, you can. The Dutch door takes a little longer, but just depending, it can take from 4 to 6, even 8 hours if you have some real hiccups. But it just depends on how it goes.
Got it. So the greenhouse install, just the greenhouse, how long would that take? If they didn't order the Dutch door, they just ordered the greenhouse.
I mean, I would easily say 4 hours is for a 50-foot tunnel, and then if you're doing a 100-foot, double that or whatever, just depending on what size you're getting.
Got it.
But,
okay, so if somebody orders a greenhouse, you better block out half of your day, because it's going to take at least half a day.
At least,
and
yep.
it could take a little bit longer. Today, we had some issues with the rebar, putting those in the ground, and then also we had some filming, so it did take a little longer to do both of those things. But overall, I'm super happy. I am so excited. You guys are the greatest install team. And Farmers Friends offers installation, right?
Yep.
Okay, so they offer it. Here I'm in Tennessee, and Farmers Friends is actually located in Centerville, right?
Yep.
And that's about an hour and a half away. So you offer local installation only?
Correct. I mean, we've done within 10 hours of here.
Okay.
So just depending on
All right.
how many tunnels and what you're willing to pay, we
Really?
can travel too. Yep.
So around the state of Tennessee, it
Tennessee,
looks like
Kentucky, Alabama,
Okay.
Georgia.
so the states connecting to Tennessee,
Basically.
Farmers Friends offers installation, which is really cool.
sir.
These guys are super professional. and there were no hiccups. So I'm so excited and happy. Thank you guys.
All right.
Boom, boom. Let's go. Hey, hope you enjoyed today's video. Hope you learned something. I hope that now you know how to put together a greenhouse from start to finish. And if you need a greenhouse or any farm supplies for your farm, check out Farmer's Friends. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe, and smash that bell, ding, so you know what I'm doing. If you learned something, put it down in the comments what you learned. And if you got a question, remember, questions can lead to content. So don't be afraid to ask your question. Put it down below so that I can maybe make some content for it. You've been watching Taddy Digest. I'm Tad, and I'll keep you cool if you let me.